This is an Irish independent podcast.
As Colin was saying yesterday, I've never sent a voice note in my life, but
I do a good bit.
no, I never do. And I'm always like, anytime I send anything to anybody, I'm just presuming someone else will say it. Like, if it's in any way,
I would.
interesting.
Sorry, yeah.
I take that as a given that this will be like, look, what,
It's not private.
yeah.
Yeah.
And especially with voice notes.
Sorry,
You
my,
can't-
my voice note is not juicy. It's like, hey,
yeah. No, like the Stephen Ward one. Do you remember the Stephen Ward?
yeah, that's
He must have known. Like it was like
The big
broadcast.
question is, how often do you delete it and then do it again? How vain are you about your delivery?
well. I mean, I have a certain reputation to uphold. So if I feel it's not
1, 2,
2. Welcome everybody. A few bits and bobs to get through. We'll do so in the company of Ronan Mullen. Hello.
Hi, Joe.
We have Conan Doherty here. Hello.
Hi, Joe.
And Conor McKeown of our GAA staff has been bundled into the room as well. Hey, Conor.
Hi, Joe.
Oh dear,
What?
I'm sick. Just taking the next half hour off. You talk.
I thought it was the disrespect you were showing bits and bobs again straight out the gate. It's like, oh dear.
No, I'm sorry. I'm thrilled we're doing bits and bobs. My favourite slot of the week. We recorded a chat with Mike Costello, but Mike Costello earlier. So I had to re-record the outro because I just started coughing so much, couldn't actually say goodbye to him.
Yeah.
Mike, you just go. I'll record the outro after.
There was some emotional stuff in there, but I didn't think.
It wasn't that.
No.
Yeah.
No, the creche contagion is real. I'm 4 weeks into it, been sick for 3 3/4. It's. I thought people exaggerated.
No, it's only starting, Joe.
Really?
So a few things to get through. We won't dwell on it, but I'm sure you've seen the back page of the paper, for instance, this morning. Ruben Amorim hugging Omar Barada at Carrington. 3 hours later, Ruud van Nistelrooy has departed the club. Official statement. So I think he took the advice of every former footballer we've had on over the last couple of weeks. Do not have your replacement sitting beside you on the bench. It's a bad idea. It's a bad look. And he was wise enough to dodge that one. So to be fair to him, it wasn't just Van Nistelrooy. René, Hake, Peter Morel, all the gang are gone. The whole Ten Hag gang gone. Darren Fletcher is staying. We did talk to Mike Costello about Mike Tyson, Jake Paul. Your interest levels in this, Ronan, we've talked about it. Conor?
I watch it.
Yeah.
I'll watch it in the same way as, it's like, I wouldn't say car crash necessarily, but there's something.
Driving past a
Yeah,
wreckage.
there's
It's like a demolition derby in America.
Yeah, there's something really compelling about this in a grim sort of way. Like even if Katie Taylor wasn't on the undercard, I'd have to tune in. And I think it doesn't say anything about any of us that will tune in that we're going hook, line and sinker for this. All we want to see is Tyson knock the guy out. Like they're literally telling us, they're literally giving us what we want and we're going to take it.
Well,
All of it.
look, this may not be true, but Carl Froch on his podcast is saying, I've heard, now again, major health warning.
Carl Froch has heard a lot of stuff in the last few
I
years.
think he has increasingly. That like it's in the contract. Tyson can't knock him out in the first 2 rounds. He won't get the same money.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody who knows boxing pretty well the other day, and he in fact, he's a boxing coach, but he was saying if you look at the social media clips that the Tyson camp or Netflix are putting up, he says they're very, very short clips of him up really close, and then these short clips of him up very, very far away. And he says, I don't think he has the capacity for an actual boxing match, not to any great standard. Right. He says he is very notably jacked up as well. For a man of his age, to have muscles like that and have that very ferocious physique. But again, even though it was so hard to just say that sentence, I'm going to watch it for that very reason.
Consenting adults. Conan, you'll be there. Maybe not at 4 a.m. on Netflix, but you'll be there the next morning.
I will be there no matter what. Yeah, and surely for me, there's something in the purity of somebody who's actually been really good at the sport for so long, just showing that there is a difference in standard here. You can't say anybody just can't walk in here willy-nilly and beat one of the best, no matter how old he is.
What if Jake Paul does walk in and do that?
But we heard this about McGregor as well, and I bought into it before the Mayweather fight that it was going to be.
I don't think Mayweather was 58 though.
I know.
This is just the right amount of freak show. I mean,
Yeah.
he might just be so old that Paul will win.
McGregor wasn't a YouTuber either, so it must be the same jump, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm seeing lots of people saying Paul's going to win.
You drew the WWE parallel when you were talking to Mike earlier, and it's like Logan Paul, who's Jake's brother, is an athletic phenomenon. Like he's transitioned. People talk about that being preordained and the result, but the athleticism is real. What those guys are doing, and Jake Paul's the same. Like he's a ferocious puncher, and like for all Connor's saying, Mike reasonably is on the athletic decline. This lad is in the peak of his physical condition. So if he's in any way competent, I'd have my concerns as well.
Well, so would I, based on the 2020 fight between Tyson and Roy Jones Jr., which at the time completely passed me by. I only watched it this week. It's not good. I mean, Tyson is just falling on him and clinching for dear life. And what's more, the whole thing is so boring. I mean, I challenge you to watch the full. You think Mike Tyson 2020, Roy Jones Jr. I'll watch that.
Well, like Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather fight was one of the worst sporting spectacles I've ever seen in my life.
First
And
round was okay, wasn't it?
Was it?
I think McGregor landed a punch.
Yeah. Ireland's greatest ever sporting
You're
moment.
the one tuning in to watch this at 4 a.m. Not me. Can I just play a clip? This is, I think, a sense of the build-up which is incoming. So I think well-intentioned. This is not a slight. Maybe I have this wrong, but they're having a face-to-face in the last 24 hours or so. And Jake Paul, Mike Tyson is an animal lover, gifts him a pigeon. So just have a listen.
Oh, yes, I got you a gift.
Thank you very much.
I got you a gift, Mike.
You want no pigeon?
But I wanted you to have this.
Thank you, Jake. Looks like a low budget pedigree, but
I've just never seen someone handle a pigeon. Is it a low budget pigeon?
I'll feed him to my falcon.
Oh,
So that's food for your falcon?
Yeah.
So it takes a turn. I mean, you're watching it and you're thinking, is this a sincere, nice moment between the two? Then Tyson is handling the pigeon with great care. And like, it's not funny, it's horrific now. It's like a dark moment of it. But like, someone who's used to handling animals, he's handling the pigeon really nicely. And then I'm going to feed it to my falcon. Yeah, I just want no part of any of this.
There's something very macabre about this whole...
So dark.
Netflix for you.
But at this stage, like they've zoomed in on the pigeon. Like it's actually it's a bit disturbing.
Well, I think the whole thing is disturbing, Joe. I think that the whole point is that we're inclined to click on things that are disturbing nowadays.
I get that. Look, two consenting adults. Let's not like sacrifice a pigeon to his falcon just as a bit.
Sorry, it's not the sentiment of what you expressed there that I found funny. It was just the fact that you said that sentence.
Yeah.
Those words in that order were not what I expected us to be talking about.
Well, I mean, look, we talk far more about Katie Taylor with Mike Costello. You'll be happy to hear later on. But I guess there's a kind of cultural aspect to Tyson Paul, which means for people all around the world, that's the bigger thing. And I suspect for the 70,000 going into the stadium in Dallas.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people as well, when it comes to Tyson, I don't know how many times over the last 20 years or since YouTube was invented that I've just gone, Tyson's greatest knockouts. Like there was something utterly compelling about him. The ultimate heavyweight, the ultimate puncher, the bad boy and all the rest of it. And then you read his autobiography and it's brilliant and it's spectacular and it's sad and everything else.
Is it, yeah?
Oh yeah, like there's so much honesty and sort of pathos in it, and he was completely led astray. And obviously, the very serious things that he went to prison for are very much part of the story too. But we were kind of deprived, for those reasons, prime Tyson, and I think there's some part of us that are forever searching YouTube for those things.
Yeah. So Mike Costello is waiting for you in your feed. That's Tyson Paul. Suspect not the last time. We'll touch on Friday night at large this week. David Coote. So, I mean, geez Louise. Has been referenced since he was 16 years of age. Made it to the Premier League in 2018. I guess the highlight of his career was reffing the League Cup final that Manchester United won under Ten Hag against Newcastle a couple of years ago. And I guess life was ticking along just fine. And suddenly this video, which The Guardian reckon is from 2020, 2021 territory, has emerged. And so there are two clips. It seems like everybody's kind of guessing / you're reading reports. It seems it has kind of late at night, early in the morning house party vibes with people. He obviously has hit it off with them. They don't seem like friends either, the way they're almost interviewing him and recording him, as you'll hear. So here is a little taster of Premier League referee David Coote.
So what did you think of the Liverpool game earlier when you were fourth official?
Liverpool was shit.
What do you think of Jurgen Klopp?
Absolutely.
What would you say? Why would you say that Jurgen Klopp was a
aside from having the right pop at me when I ref them against Burnley in lockdown, then he accused me of lying and then just had a right fucking pop at me, and I've got no interest in speaking to somebody who's fucking arrogant. So I do my best not to speak to him. Milner's alright. I get on with so
James Milner. You get on with James Milner?
German. Fuck me.
Long story short, Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool are all fucking bellends and we hate Scousers.
So needless to say, David Coote's not the most problematic person in that video. However, he is the one with the most to lose. But to be fair, they are stand-up guys and they give due reassurance.
Right, like, just to be clear, that fucking last video can't go anywhere. Seriously.
He's a Premier League referee. Let's not fucking ruin his career. Like, let's face it, we're good blokes, but we can't ruin a bloke's career. Like, we're not that bad. Also, he's a fucking legend.
So, yeah.
I mean, suddenly the pigeon video seems okay.
We're good blokes.
We're good.
Per David Coote, do you think for the last 3 years he's been on some level worried that video would surface, or do you think they told him?
I think there's a statute of limitations on the fear.
It goes away.
Yeah, I think after about a year you go, no, that's obviously not coming out. Sure, who backs up their phone? Like,
yeah.
Would he even remember it as well? I mean, it seems like 4 a.m. kitchen. It looks like a student's house.
It does have that feel. I mean, he may well be under the influence of zero substances, and so was a judge, but it has that kind of 4 a.m. feel, I grant you.
It does, yeah. How many of them sent that to one person? You know, just don't show anybody this. But
it's hard to know. I mean, if it goes to one, that's all it takes,
exactly.
Obviously.
But then that one person thinks, I've got one confidant I can send it to.
You think it's been doing the rounds one by one for the last 4 years?
And then 3 years later, here we are.
So people have quickly picked up on the fact he was actually on VAR the time Pickford took out Van Dijk. Remember that injury which ruled Van Dijk out for the season? He did his ACL, I think. Yeah. So he's on VAR for that one. Does this end David Coote's career?
Yeah, I think it probably does. Like Premier League, particularly Premier League supporters seem to be, or maybe it's just they're the ones who come into their opinions, come into contact with a very paranoid bunch anyway. Like, they don't need much to think that the world is against them and their club and their team.
Yeah. Could he just not ref Liverpool games for a certain period of years?
Well, I think you'd be leaving yourself open to accusations that if you refed teams that were competing for the same things that Liverpool were.
Yeah. But a raft of mid-table games for several years just to get him over the hump. Like, look, he's allowed think what he wants to think about Jurgen Klopp, who I dare say is not terribly pleasant, actually, if you're a referee.
And I'd say he's not the only one.
And all he said about Liverpool was they were shit. As in, not they're a shit club, not I hate them. Yeah. He just said they were shit that day. Like, he's allowed to say Liverpool were not very good.
Yeah, but the problem is referees aren't allowed to have personalities or opinions or real lives or feelings, because all anybody considers them is, you know, a kind of one of the moderators of their happiness and their satisfaction and their frustration and their rage and everything else. What does anybody think that referees talk about when they're in social situations?
Should we? Why? Part of me, look, I can see the problem here for David Coote, but the Premier League should come out and say, look, yeah, he said what he said about Klopp. It's not good. He didn't say anything else as to say if David Coote was on video saying, I got them. Yeah. I screwed them over, actually. I got them good.
Long time coming.
100%. But actually, why indulge the stupidity of so many fans here? Why not just say, look, not good. Will not be on Liverpool games for the foreseeable. Maybe even not even that. But actually, Dave Coote's done nothing wrong on the pitch in his job. And you know, we're not just going to ruin a man's career. That's so outlandish.
This is also on the backdrop of, to your point, Aston Villa fans feeling screwed over by David Coote in that same game. You know, they feel like they were denied 2 penalties.
Oh, was he in the game on Saturday?
Yeah. You know, and Liverpool fans were taking issue with the fact that he wasn't going to give a foul against Salah and the build-up to a goal. They scored the goal anyway.
Yeah.
But, again, swings and roundabouts.
Yeah,
Everyone feels like,
Yeah.
I was looking at that through the prism of why didn't we get...
I thought there was one penalty.
Why didn't
actually,
we get a penalty?
for Villa.
You would have thought that.
So
and
if David Coote hated Liverpool, he could have given Villa a
the
penalty.
opportunity was there for him to get it. And you're right, the optics are just unacceptable, and you can't do it in the day and age that everybody is so paranoid about their teams. But I'm sure he's not the only referee who's had a confrontation like that with Jurgen Klopp and then gone to a drinking session or whatever it was afterwards, being like, "She's that guy," and then one of his friends just so happened to pull out a phone, say that again. Yeah. And you're right. All he said was, Liverpool. He was fourth official in that game.
Yeah,
they weren't good.
They weren't good, and Jurgen Klopp was, you know what to me.
But they probably did indulge the paranoia a little bit, because I don't know what controversy it was, but there was a 2.5 year gap of David Coote taking Liverpool matches in, so that's almost fueling it. Then by the time he comes back, is it the Van Dijk thing? Then there's obviously the Odegaard thing where he was doing the VAR for that. It's a terrible handball decision that he missed. But at the same time, Gary Neville's on commentary twice looking at a replay saying, yeah, you can see he slipped there. He was basically agreeing with the VAR decision as well on that. So there's always going to be an argument, and I don't actually think it's just Premier League. It's every GAA game you're at, it's like, give me that programme, where's that referee from?
100%.
Of course he's from Longford. Of course they're going to screw us over, or of course he's from Dublin. What would he know about football? Yeah. That's the vibe in every sport, I think.
No, but you go into being a referee with your eyes wide open, and it's usually lads who couldn't make it at the elite level playing, so the refereeing's the next best thing. So they would have had to have a fairly intense fandom of the sport to go down this road and know what they're going to be getting. So it's kind of, you go through the list of referees and who they support and stuff like that, and it's probably unrealistic that they don't have some affiliations. I think we just have to make our peace with that. They're professionals. They should be able to make an objective decision while going home and supporting their club. Howard Webb was on the overlap a few weeks ago, and he was using Michael Oliver as an example, and Michael Oliver's from Newcastle, so he's not allowed referee Sunderland games. But where do you draw the line on that? If Newcastle are going for a title race in a few years and they need Chelsea to lose and he's refereeing the Chelsea, you know what I mean? How far else do we extrapolate that? So I just think there has to be a trust level that referees are professional and they're allowed to have these opinions behind closed doors.
Yeah, it's funny that it has, because I always think that it's a very GAA thing, that, you can't have a referee from that county because that can't, and you see the CCC, the disciplinary body, sometimes if there's a disciplinary case, if one of the members is from a county of the claimant or the defendant, they excuse themselves from it. But you don't think at that very ultra elite professional level at the Premier League that they're quite as susceptible to these accusations of bias. But I suppose it comes down to perception.
Yeah.
It's like the All-Ireland football final. Sean Hurston was refereeing from Tyrone against Armagh Galway. It would have been easy to pick a referee from a neutral province, but they were like, this is the best man for the job, gave him the job. No incidents in the game.
Great, yeah. I think don't bow down to that lowest common denominator of nonsense.
Yeah, I remember even Kerry putting pressure on David Goff, because I think David Goff lives in Dublin or something like that, because everybody knows that.
Was it lives in Dublin? Yeah. It wasn't Dublin Club.
No. I think he has some affiliation to St. Jude's because it's in his general area. But
he's not a member, not a card-carrying member.
No, as everybody knows that me GA people are ferociously biased towards Dublin football team. Yeah. But I suppose people in that situation, and it has been the case, because I know of managers who have kind of planted questions at press conferences, about referees, so that they can air their satisfaction with the referee, but be seen to be doing it. That does go on at a GAA level. Yeah. But I would agree with you totally about the fact that we shouldn't be pandering to the
stupidity.
But unfortunately, I think ultimately that's what will happen.
Yeah, maybe. Well, we'll see what happens to David Coote. And look, I think we all wish the fellas who recorded him that night the best.
Oh man, top blokes.
We're all good fellas.
We're all good blokes.
We're all good blokes here. Protesting too much. So Aviva Stadium, Roy O'Connor is I'd say top of the charts. Is he online?
I think so.
Yeah. So he's trying to make sense of the atmosphere. I mean, every bit as much as the performance. Obviously, he was in here yesterday with us, but the atmosphere at the Aviva on Friday, which was so strikingly flat for an evening kickoff, a Friday night game, New Zealand, etc. And he's talking about issues maybe like a very long, protracted build-up in his piece, the lights show, followed by the preliminaries, the three anthems, the meet and greet with Michael D. Higgins, then the haka. And then, of course, the match does not help matters, he points out, because it wasn't a good match. So the ticket prices and structure have been talked about. Tickets are very expensive, and then the structure is obviously the clubs get a huge quotient of the tickets, and increasingly they're using the value of these tickets to make money as opposed to passing them on to their members, which is, I guess, the original thought process. So Rory writes in his piece, we're aware of one senior club told members there's no opportunity to buy tickets because the money they can make on the corporate market for the New Zealand game alone would fund their first team for the season. That's obviously hard for clubs to turn down. And Rory talks, the event's connection to big business at large. He points out the official mascot, it was announced at halftime, the official mascot is now Kevin the Carrot from Aldi ads, which he says, so all of it he says adds up to a passive crowd. Kevin the Carrot has a lot of heavy lifting to do, he writes. And obviously a couple of years ago, the union did do a review of the concerning atmosphere at the Aviva. There was a vote then against shutting down access to the bars. A big complaint is obviously people standing up getting drinks during the games. Big money at stake there. Interestingly, I hadn't realised this, Rory points out that the Principality in Cardiff have, for similar reasons, similar complaints about people getting up getting drinks all the time, they now have non-drinking sections if you want to just be in with people who aren't getting up every 2 minutes for a drink. On Kevin the Carrot, McCool, the Opal Wolfhound, was a feature of our childhood. So, I wouldn't say this is unprecedented, and it's not Kevin the energy drink or Kevin the sugary sweet. It's Kevin the Carrot, for God's sake.
I'm not sure we can necessarily blame or attribute good or bad atmosphere to mascots. I'm not sure that there's particularly influential characters on the overall ambience of it.
I think Kevin's innocent here.
Yeah, no, he's the least of all our worries.
So the atmosphere. Was it as bad?
It feels like it was from talking to people, but I spoke to somebody who's actually involved with a rugby province there recently. During the week, and he was at the game, and he said it was terrible.
Terrible, yeah.
Yeah, and I was talking to somebody else, and he thought it was really, really good. So
it wasn't really good.
Well, sorry, he didn't have any problems with it, but he kind of made the point about the bringing drink back to your seat, you wouldn't put up with it in the cinema if somebody kept going out to get popcorn. And I'm not sure why that's regularised. I know there's an idea that you should be able to get drink and you should be able to watch it. And I know that people kind of hold Croke Park or the GAA aloft as this kind of sort of very holy operation. But you can buy alcohol in Croke Park, you just can't go back into the bowl, and maybe that's the stipulation that you need to bring in. If you're that desperate for a drink, go and have a drink. There's a lovely bar now in Newbridge in St. Conleth's Park. I saw it on Saturday night, right in the middle of the stand. People were very happy in their perch having their drinks last Saturday night. Yeah. So I don't think drinking is the problem, but it is quite obnoxious to be getting up and down from your seat. And one more thing, and I wasn't there, so I don't know personally, but I think maybe the All Blacks, we expect, because it's, the clash of the top two or two of the top three nations in rugby, that it will be this, pressure cooker of fiery atmosphere. But because the tickets are so expensive, you do have a lot of day trippers, because seeing the All Blacks and watching the haka is the sort of thing that a very casual sports fan / event junkie has on their list of things to do. Yeah. And I think they would behave at a game the same way as I would if I got a ticket to the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? And I would gladly go to the Super Bowl if I could get a ticket and sit there and be passive and everything else. So
Rory made a good point yesterday in the podcast as well. He said because of that corporate aspect, there will be people there bringing clients. And so if there's somebody next to you that you want to do business with and make a good impression on, you may not well stand up and give David Coote buckets of abuse and sing and scream and behave sort of in an unprofessional way.
But it wasn't a game that lent itself to a good atmosphere to jump to the defence of rugby fans, because they need that, obviously. In any sport, to use the GAA example again, turnovers are the lifeblood of a good atmosphere at GAA games where the ball is toing and froing, and that gets the crowd up. In rugby, it's probably phase play and that kind of stuff. And you'll recall at the start of that game, it was a series of scrum resets, and it just totally took the air out of the balloon.
No, it did. Around the time of the haka, it was amazing. But it did strike me watching it that around those first 5-6 minutes, before, by the way, it was apparent that the game was a stinker and Ireland were not going to play well, I thought, it's a bit unusual they're not all singing the Fields of Athenry right now.
During the haka?
No, 3, 4, 5 minutes in, when there's a lot of scrum resets and there's a lull, I kind of thought, well, now's the chance to actually kind of create something. But for whatever reason, and I think it would have happened in other games, for whatever reason, there was just kind of a... Do you think there's a degree of Friday, end of a long week. It's different to a Saturday night. Do you think there's a degree of that? Like
I've done 9 podcasts this week. I just want to relax.
You've been at work all day. Do you think that's part of it? I don't know.
I don't know. Like, I do always sort of resent the idea that a fan has to generate the atmosphere.
Sure.
They do, like, because there's always an argument: are they proactive or are they reactive? They're always reactive, but they will, like, that can actually generate the atmosphere when they have something to get after. So you're saying about the Fields of Athenry, like, that doesn't do anything, just a couple of verses of Fields of Athenry, a very glum song actually as well, but it's good when there's big moments and it's just off the back of something and everyone's feeling it in the stadium because they're reacting to something that's happening on the pitch. They're reacting to a big upset that's happening. Like,
you could sort of argue they had just had the haka and there was still enough heat in the stadium to do it, and they didn't for whatever reason.
But to give you an example of, I remember the weirdest, best atmosphere I had been at in a long time was the Ulster final in 2022. It was so strange for a GAA match. It was Derry and Donegal. There were flares being lit off. People were singing before the match. There were shoes being thrown everywhere. Like, it was just a party atmosphere. Then the game started and everyone settled down.
Interesting.
Because they were just passing the ball back and forward, and obviously that's a whole other discussion with GAA, but there was nothing now to react to. There was no anticipation there anymore. But if you had got an attack straight away, if you had got a point straight away, then everyone's losing their minds like they were in extra time, but they were waiting for something to get them off their seats. And to your point about the doing business with clients there, again, sometimes you're not going to have time to do that if the game commands it, because the game is getting you up off your feet and getting you shouting onto the pitch, and maybe not shouting abuse, but getting you involved.
Yeah, and to be fair, Roy didn't mean they would have been doing business like during the game, but just you're not going to behave like a lunatic next to someone you're hoping to.
And I do
win
because I would definitely be a different person at a match. In general, especially.
It depends. Like the other, and I've seen this that the IRFU have to do more to generate the atmosphere, but like it's. Like, trying to contrive an atmosphere is literally impossible. Like, what exactly are you going to do?
Yeah, see, I don't know either.
You have to tell, like, people have to be invested in what's happening in the sport, as in genuinely invested. They can't just show up and that's the first time that they've thought about this game. They have to really care whether the team that they're going to see wins or loses. That's the fundamental part of that. Now, I don't know that wasn't the case last weekend. I'm just saying that is the building block for atmosphere. And then after that, it depends on the exchanges. Like, I know the corporate element, I know friends of mine go over to the Champions League final most years and they say it's terrible. Like, it's rubbish.
Well, that in particular is bad. To be fair though, like Ireland, New Zealand games and lots of Ireland games, the atmosphere has been amazing over the last couple of years. Corporate Ireland or no. So I don't think that fully explains why this in particular was bad versus other
have
years.
have we popped the aura around the All Blacks?
I felt there's more of that, like an expectation of, okay, let's see the lads do something, as opposed to we could be on the end of a 50-point beating here. We need to do everything we can in the stands, even if it's circumstantial or tangential. We need to do everything we can. So I felt like that fear factor was gone, and the novelty of beating them was kind of gone. So there was a degree of.
That's a good point.
All right,
Rory's point though about the length of time for the sort of histrionics beforehand is, like, I was sitting in the kitchen and I told my 6-year-old who was in the other room, "Come here, I want to show you this. It's called the haka. Those scary men are going to do a funny dance and stick out their tongues." And she says, "Okay," and the players will come down the pitch. And she's like, "Dad, when is the thing starting?" That just, I was like, no, it's about to start now. Oh, Jesus, Michael D. And then three anthems. And then a funny war dance. And finally we get going. It's quite elaborate.
No, it's true. Do we got to go. Do we want Gary Lineker or Connor's trip with the Cuala gang?
I want to hear about Newbridge, yeah.
Okay. What is you and Cuala? I mean, this is like a little bit obsessed here. What's going on? So Connor's obsession with Cuala continues, although this is I would say a very complimentary piece ultimately of the Cuala Brigade, who once again, as is their wont, decided to hire a train to go to the game. This time it was Newbridge, St Collins Park, looking well, by the way.
Oh, fantastic.
Good.
Yeah, very
good.
impressed.
They were taking on Naas in the Leinster quarter-final, a brilliant game which Cuala won.
Yeah.
And man of the match Niall and Big Brother Con struck 1-8 between them. So you, though, joined the Cuala mafioso, as you call them, from Dalkey, and they got the train all the way to Newbridge, including, I'd always heard, it's like a mythical thing, because I used to live near the Phoenix Park. There's a tunnel which was built in the late 1800s that goes under the Phoenix Park, which generally out of use for about 100 years, lately back in use. So that's the route they took, and they got to Newbridge. One couple on arrival had thought they were going to Connolly Station. That was bad news for them. Yeah. You do say, though, of the whole venture, the Cuala mafioso are a self-aware bunch. Nobody here is pretending they're part of the firm at Millwall. And there were lots of pictures of them on the train enjoying wine and cheese. But then you point out, like, this is not like an ostentatious display of wealth or luxury. It's just a good idea, and it pays for itself. Like, they're actually more than breaking even on certain trips, or else, you know, within touching distance on Saturday, where it was €15 for an adult, £5 for a child. Multiply that by 800 people, and you're only £1,000 short of the Irish Rail bill. And across 2 trips, they more than wash their face. And you say Cuala 1, carbon footprint 0. And you said nobody had to leave their home 4 hours before throwing. Nobody sacrificed the last few minutes of a brilliant game to beat the traffic. Nobody was caught turning the car near the N7. All in all, you have fallen in love with the good folk at Cuala.
Could I just make the point that, first of all, it wasn't my idea to go on the train, and that my house is about a 50-minute drive from Newbridge, which is roughly the same length of drive it is to Dalkey before you get on the hour-and-a-half train. So, but no, they were brilliant, and they made the point there as well that in Cuala, like they don't own a blade of grass. Do you know what I mean? They don't have any ground. So everything that they have is council pitches and rented pitches, and they're taking in more and more and more kids. And I think in a lot of those big clubs, you know, people talk very derogatively about super clubs, but you tend to find in all of them that at the core there's the same dynamic and the same kind of characters that you have in very small clubs. And Paddy Murdoch, who got in touch with the show, I mean, clubs can't run without somebody with that kind of energy and that kind of commitment.
Yeah, so Paddy, after you had kind of slagged off Cuala, Paddy emailed in. Sorry, he hadn't really. I'm just messing. Paddy emailed in a sport podcast in the to say, I'm the guy who organised the train. It's me. And so that's how you...
But yeah, I'll come back to Paddy in a second.
Okay.
But they... Like there is a small disconnect socially. Like they use about 11 different venues that they've rented all over the south side of Dublin to try and cater for as many people as possible, because it is a GAA thing where you just keep taking kids in, keep taking them in. Anybody who wants to come. I was talking to somebody there who's involved in the local soccer club, and they said, look, they just don't take them in past a certain figure. We can't facilitate them. So the interest in, so a lot of kids, and not to generalise all of them, but some of them are being dropped to GAA on a Saturday morning the same way they're being dropped to karate or drama or whatever it is. It's just a thing. But when they hear about the train, they want to go because their friends are going. And if they're going, their parents have to go. So you're engaging a lot of people who are involved in the club, but maybe not closely involved in the club. And I'm honestly, there was 800 of us walking from the clubhouse up to the dart station through, and I mean genuinely through, you know, the oyster bars and everything else in the middle of Dalkey. It's a lovely village, by the way. I haven't spent too much time there. But it did feel like, you know, you see in the past was Austin Stacks. They marched up through Tralee and everything else. It was a proper club atmosphere. Yeah. But
that sounds amazing.
Yeah, no, it genuinely was. And it was hard not to be really kind of taken away with it, you know. But just on Paddy Murdoch, and he was brilliant, and he helped organise.
What's his role, by the way?
He's just a former secretary of the club, and it was his idea. Actually, I came across his name a couple of weeks ago because Mick Fitzsimons mentioned him when he was mentioning all the people who'd helped him over the years through the club. But we were on the train, and one of Paddy's acquaintances says, you better tell Conor what happened the day after the county final. And he says, oh God. So our little chat about Cuala in here went viral around Cuala WhatsApp groups, strangely enough. But what happened was, the night of the county final, they obviously had a bit of a celebration in the clubhouse. And Paddy had to come back and collect the car the next day. And he drives a Tesla. And the battery was gone.
Hey, listen.
And he explained to me that there was only 4% left in the battery of the Tesla. But for anybody who doesn't drive a Tesla, there's a sat-nav system in it, and it tells you what your battery is going to be when you get there. So he took a chance, and it turns out that with Teslas, it stays on 1% for a fair while as a safety procedure. But he also said, this being Cuala, somebody else had a charger.
No. Yeah. Does anybody have a... Yes. Well, that's kind of nice. I think I feel like you and Cuala now, it's been an interesting...
It's a bit of a thing, yeah.
Bit of a love-in, maybe.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
I think for the kids, by the way, hey, we're going to go to the match. We're getting the train. All your friends are getting the train. Mum and Dad getting the train. We're going to have cheese and wine. We're going to take photos. Some sneering Irish independent journalist is going to write a piece about it. It's going to be great. But I think that's what an exciting day in your childhood.
Oh yeah, can you imagine it? Like, I mean, Colin Keys did a piece on Friday, you know, because when they told him about the route, and by the way, the tunnel, like we were through the tunnel before I said, "What's this? When are we going through the tunnel?" And somebody looked at their phone, the GPS, and we were in Selbridge, you know. So it was just because it was kind of dark, but. Colin made the point. He says, like, what a brilliant thing to do.
Brilliant.
Like, can you imagine going with 600, 700, 800 people from your own club to a match all on the same train without anybody having to take cars or making up excuses why they couldn't go on a Saturday night? So, no, it's a great idea. It's just, hopefully they don't have to play matches in Donegal or places that the rail doesn't go to, because I think their attendance will
Start
drop off.
chartering a plane to Breffni Park for the All-Ireland semi-final.
Very good. We are out of time. Ronan, thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks very much. Connor, thanks very much.
Cheers, Joe.